What's up? This is Gardy with Clear Life Media, Clear Life Combat. We're at the HQ here in League City, Texas. I got a guest here in studio. I'm going to let them introduce themselves. We're going to find out everything they got going on. Hey, how's it going?
What's up, guys? My name is Dominick Perez. I'm with TXO Academy and ACS MMA.
Yes, sir. We've had the chance to talk before, going back some years, and I want to get into all that, but you got into an event that's coming up November 10th. What do you have?
We're going to step in the cage again, November 10th, Sunday, and they took my win from me last time. All right, so we're looking to go in. This time we're looking to finish. You know, we don't want to have any close decisions or anything. We've been working hard, so we're going to come out with the gas pedal.
Yeah.
Foot on the gas pedal.
If someone hasn't seen you fight before, why should they watch you? What can they expect when you walk in the cage?
It's a always changing game. I'm always adapting, so it's always something different, really. So I mean, I didn't really plan to wrestle the dude last camp, but he kicked me in the head, so you know, absolutely turned the switch on. I think that's where one of my strong points are. I'm just very adaptable, so I'm a very explosive fighter too, so I can make it entertaining. I like slams too, so you know, I try to keep it entertaining for the crowd.
Mm-hmm. I would say that it was. We were talking right before we started this. There was a big slam, like a suplex. You just picked him up and threw him over. But that it's a highlight. It's a highlight reel. You know, is that one of your goals? Like, obviously you want to be entertaining, but keep the fans entertained, keep them coming to watch you fight, just to be exciting like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I always had objectives. Like, I have pictures with my flying knees. I have pictures, you know, I wanted like the big overhand or, you know, maybe like a head kick or something. But yeah, a suplex would be a good one. Or like, I've got my crucifix pictures, you know, so those are just little objectives I give myself.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to get the pictures, you got to do it in the fight, right? So
Yeah.
It's a win-win, you know?
Yes. So November 10th, we were also talking, and I think you're the only one from TXO, which is your gym.
Yes, sir.
And then also you train at ACS with Drew Tychek, and there's some great fighters out of there. But what is that like whenever you're the only fighter from your gym or gyms, like on the card versus going in with like an army? How you feeling?
For me, I'm a coach as well, so like for me, I get to focus on me. And my guys, they'll, you know, backdoor at a later date or something, so they're kind of in camp with me, but I get to focus on myself. And for me, it lessens the load for me. And then as far as like at ACS, it doesn't bother me any. And then the guys are in camp with me too, because they're fighting the next week, so it's, you know, it's cool. That means potentially after I fight, we get to easy night, you know, go home,
Mm-hmm.
drink some margaritas or something.
Yeah. For the rest of this year, I mean, this I'm guessing, will this be your last fight of the year, and what does next year look like for you?
I don't know. I've had a few offers. I'm not too sure yet. I want to focus on this fight. I want to get a good win, a finish. We're coming for a finish, and we'll go from there. But I've had a few offers. I don't know if I want to fight in December, but I'd like momentum. So, you know, we'll see.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned that you have some objectives, and you take those into the fight. And without sharing too much of your game plan, how much of your game plan are you willing to share? Do you want to get a finish wherever it comes?
Yeah, wherever it comes. I'm not going to, like, you can't force a finish. That's the thing, the big misconception. Like, oh, I'm just going to go in there. Everybody wants to finish, right? But, like, it'll come. I'm just going to let it come. And whenever it comes, I'm going to be calm and collected, and I'm going to find my openings. I'm going to take them, and I'm going to steer the fight the whole time. I plan to control it. You know, we've worked bad situations. You know, everybody has a game plan, but when you get in there, you get hit hard enough, and that goes through the roof, right? So, I mean, for example, my last fight, like I said, my opponent I blocked the kick, but it still like hurt, right? So like it flipped a switch in me instinctively, and then I started listening to my corner, right? And it worked out well, right? We really went away with the split decision, but that's why we've really been working on finishing positions, a lot of like ground and pound. Like, we're trying to keep it active, very active, pressure. I've been working on my gas tank, you know, so we're like I said, we're going to come out kind of with a lot of pressure, with standing or with, you know, grappling, wrestling. I think the biggest difference in his last opponent is the dude didn't try to wrestle up. He laid in guard, and we're going to wrestle up the whole time. I think I could out-wrestle him, outstrike him. So I feel confident. I think this is my time.
And the training partners and teammates that you have, at both gyms, and specifically ACS because I'm familiar with some of those guys. Great jiu-jitsu, good wrestling, strong, and a lot of them are, I mean, they're bigger weight classes than you.
Several weight classes.
So what's that like? I mean, having them as your training partners.
It has its benefits, I mean, one, the dudes in my weight division aren't ever going to be as big or strong as they are. And these are black belts with their own gym, like high-level black belts. They complete IBJJF, everything. So their credentials are definitely there. So the way I look at it is I'm training with better guys every day. So when I go in there with my opponents, it's kind of like, all right, this should be easy. And then it kind of works. Like, oh, I'm wrestling up with 170-pound, 180-pound plus guys on me, then I can do it with a guy that's about 130, 140, 150 pounds, is the idea. The difference is the quickness. So I do, try and, when I find little guys, I do try to get my rounds in with them. But, I'm fast as so, like, I think that's one of my big attributes too.
Yeah. You mentioned IBJJF. That's something I've seen you still compete in. I think even in the gi, no gi.
Yeah.
Even though you're training, as a gym owner, full-time fighter, you also take time to go compete, and it's a totally different sport, right?
It is. Absolutely it is. I've grown to like it. Like I used to hate the gi. But really, I blew out my knee pretty bad. That's whenever I was, first coming back, and jiu-jitsu kind of helped me like rehab it. I never did traditional rehab, so it just helped me get my strength back in my knee. And then I grew to like it. Now I kind of like the gi.
Yeah.
And definitely when I retire from MMA, I'll focus more. I was actually supposed to do pans the week before the fight. I was trying to keep it on the down low, but I don't know. Something in my gut was just telling me, hey, man, don't, risk it or whatever. I don't think I was going to get hurt, and I have full confidence that I could go out there and win, and it'd be great for the gym or whatever, but it is time away from the family, from camp, and it's, it's a bigger expense, so I was like, I'm just going to wait, focus on my fight, collect my check, and then we could do, whatever other. I think I'm locking on brown belt anyway. I don't know. It's coming.
That's exciting, huh?
It's cool. I never really cared too much about the belts. I'd rather be like the underbelt or whatever, and they're like, yo, hey, there's no way, but it's cool.
Yeah.
My background's MMA, so it didn't matter.
So for jiu-jitsu in the gi, I think is it under Pablo Silva or United or which?
Yes, sir, Pablo Silva.
What's it like there? What's the atmosphere like?
It's a competition school, so I mean, they compete, but it's not MMA. So I'm like, this is my active recovery. This is cool. Like I like it. AC, it's nice and clean. Everybody's in the gi, and it's slower. So it could definitely get rough, but like it's a good atmosphere. I like it. That's why I decided to affiliate our jiu-jitsu program with them. It's through Carlos. I call him my professor because we kind of came up together. We opened our gyms along the same time. He just did jiu-jitsu and I did MMA, and here we are, like a decade later. Mm-hmm. And he's got a good, great environment. Right,
and grappling for MMA is the same, but it's different. And even whenever you see these guys that do train MMA and they come into jiu-jitsu, it depends on what they're trying to get out of it. But sometimes you can tell it's like this dude is a different. He's cut from something different. Because I think you have to be. Would you agree to be able to go get in a cage like that?
Yeah, absolutely. The nerves for me for the fight are very real. That's always been one of my bigger complications with it, the nerves. But for jiu-jitsu tournament, I'm like, man, this is fun. It's a game. It can be intense and you do get nerves no matter what, but it's like, it's just different. It's something about like your body knowing that you're not going to get punched, kicked, or potentially like knocked out or something. You know what I mean? Like, it's just different. I don't know. But I kind of enjoy it. I like I said, jiu-jitsu, I find it like a hobby. It's nice. I can probably do that hopefully until I'm 70, whatever, like competing as long as I can. But MMA is way shorter lived. I'm not trying to fight past 36 and I'm done. I'm hanging it up wherever I'm at.
How old are you right now?
I'm 32. I just turned 32. So I got, maybe a handful of years if my body lasts. I'm not going to like push it, but like, yeah, I feel a lot better than my record. So I just want to end it on a, so we got to get the record right.
Yeah.
All right.
That's awesome. What other goals do you have that you want to accomplish in MMA?
I would like to get a professional title, but right now we're just focused on getting my record right. All right. Getting the wins, racking up the wins, finding the finishes, right? And then from there, look for a title.
Yeah, I've had the chance to watch multiple fights of yours. There's some like funny things like draws and just like different things that kind of happen where
kind of
and that's I guess one reason why you're like, hey, you can't leave it to the judges. Like I'm going to get a finish, right?
It's a bit more political nowadays. I feel like I'm the older guy. I have my brand established. I have a gym established. Like I don't need to fight. I want to fight. I don't want to sit in my rocking chair one day and like, man, I wonder if I could do it. I want to hang up my gloves and be like, hey, I'm done. I did my thing, whether it was good or bad. Like I did it, right? But as far as it's not a long-lived sport. I think guys have a hard time understanding that.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know when your last one is. It could be, I could be here right now and then go home and blow out my other knee. Like it's that crazy. It could be just like that. You know, you have no idea when your last. That's why we don't try sparring hard too much, right? We do 4 days of curriculum, and then 3 days of sparring. You know, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, just to try and prolong your brain, like because when that goes, it's not really worth it, right? Like it doesn't matter the amount of money you made in your professional career. Like your mental is everything. That's why I say 36 after that, especially if you have family and kids, which I do. So. Mm-hmm. I want to be 50 to 70 and still like be able to have a conversation, not slurring or like just punch drunk. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I love a dog fight. Don't get me wrong, but you got to know, like, you got to know concussions are bad.
Right.
You know, so it's just one of those things.
You mentioned your family and kids, and I know you have a daughter for sure because I remember you brought her in studio. This is back at KHEA, and that may have been one of the last times that we actually did a sit down like this. Right. But she was in a carrier.
Oh, she's running around now.
Yeah, how old is she now?
Back. She's 4. Yeah, she's 4 going on 14, whatever. Oh, that's crazy.
Hey, and I'm sure she's around the gym, you know, growing up on the mat.
Absolutely.
How does she like that atmosphere? Is she getting in there her little rounds?
It's all she knows. Yeah, it's all she knows. She grew up on the mat. First day we brought her home, she was on the mats in the little baby carriage thing. And now she's in our kids program. She's the reason I have kids programs still. When our AC went out and we pretty much all the kids ended up, because it gets super hot in the gym, right? It's like a Coke can. And so we lost a lot of the kids, but she was just always into it. That's what she saw. So she was like, punch, kick, headbutt. I don't know. Like, it's pretty wild. She's a product of her environment for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my wild child.
Yeah. What would you say is the importance for kids to grow up with training or have any kind of experience with that?
Just for like self-discipline. Like I tried getting my son into it. He's just not into it. I don't want to force him, you know? So, but I do think it's good for the kids because it forces you to, you're getting through uncomfortable positions. I'm not saying they have to go compete or anything. I encourage competition. That way I tell all the parents that sign up at my gym, we encourage competition so we can see how he does under pressure. Because that other kid is not going to let him get the takedown because they feel bad for him or whatever, like in class or whatever, right? Like it gives them a realistic look. And on a self-defense perspective, that kid's already a step above a random kid on the street because he knows what he's doing. So it's a win-win for the kid. They cry. That's why I tell the parents, like, hey, we don't stop it when they cry. We make them work through it. They have to learn how to listen while they're crying. Because realistically, if someone's trying to grab them or whatever, like, they're not going to stop because they're crying, right? Like, so it's not pretty. And I full disclaimer that in the initial, like, enrollment, right, with the kids. But they get good quick. The kids get very good quick. We had like 40 kids one time, and they were all savages. They were running off the balls, kicking each other in the head. They were learning like sponges. It's very fast. So,
you know, Elevate Submission Series, they'll do these kids titles, and I've seen there's one kid, I don't know his name off the top of my head, but out of Pablo Silva, and like his guard was unpassable for these other kids. And then the next time I could tell, I was like, they're game planning for this guard. It's just really cool to see how quick
evolving.
These kids, you know, can pick up, and just how good they are. And this next generation is, it's going to be exciting to see what it turns into for sure.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Man, what's it been like for you starting a business and getting to where you're at now? What's that journey been like?
It's a roller coaster, man. There's been times like for me, it kind of just fell into place. it was almost like fate. It just, the timing was absolutely perfect. I mean, it fell into my lap, honestly. I remember I had stuff. I always collected stuff throughout the years. Like whenever I would get sponsors or whatever, I would use that money and I would invest in a future business. And it sat in a storage. And I remember thinking, man, I'm gonna have to sell all this stuff, right, for cheap. Just let it go, sell it, and then it blew up. And all of a sudden, I needed more and more. And then we got rid of the mismatch stuff, got it all synchronized, and now we have our own app. It's evolved so much. Our system is evolving as well. It's crazy, but it's always an up and down roller coaster. Retention, like learning the business side of it is a crucial part, and I think I do a pretty good job. It's just always trying to get it to the next level. How do we systemize more, right, is ultimately the goal, right? But it takes time.
Yeah.
And I had to build my team. So now I have other coaches, the guys that I've trained for a while now that know my system, they now coach, and they're building their fan base, and I'm trying to get them to understand the content. Like, I mean, they're pretty good at it, because the next generation, I don't know, like, oh, hey, we did the workout, let's take the picture. Like, I'm not really like that. I'm like, but I know it's necessary nowadays, right? You have to market it, just spam it out there, and eventually it goes.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I know it's not easy having a business or having something be successful, and people don't see the work that it takes to get to a point, or even, have a gym, or it's like, oh yeah, I can start a gym, but man, it's something else. And I know even like at Clear Life, the stuff that people don't see or you don't talk about, the struggles that are still going on, So,
absolutely,
man, it's always exciting to talk about someone else's business and what they've been through. And I always try and learn, as much as I can as well. But for you, have you been able to, kick stuff off of, I think of even like Artistry Jiu-Jitsu or the Ronde Brothers or with Drew, and having those people to get info from, or what's working,
no, absolutely,
right?
Yeah, it's like a big, Drew calls it COE, Cartel of Excellence.
Mm-hmm.
And what he's building is basically all these other school owners have come together and trained under Drew. And we kind of share knowledge with each other, like, oh, hey, you're having a problem with this, and then we kind of like, oh, this is what I did, this is what I use. It's nice. It's it's pretty cool. Drew's he's definitely putting us on game.
Right.
He helps us out a lot. That's why I've stuck with him for so long.
Yeah.
Through most guys, like, oh, you lose, you go to another camp, see if you can get a change or whatever. But I never had that thought, just because Drew was my first coach that was like, very welcoming. Like, remember, like, picked me up, gave me a hug. I was like, holy shit, like, what's going on here? Like, it was weird, like. Yeah. But hey, he's a great guy, man. Till the wheels fall off.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of interesting how that is the case, because I get to go to a lot of other gyms, but there, there's your fighters and there's people that do own gyms, but to have those other gym owners like want to train and also fight there, I think that's pretty unique. I mean, even the Ronde Brothers, driving down, coming all the way to train with Drew. I mean, that has to say a lot about ACS and the caliber of training partners there, I would say.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, very cool. I love talking about this. Whenever you choked out Kurt on air, I actually was just showing this video a couple days ago to some of the guys here at Clear Life. So, and maybe it's time to reshare that. That was so fun. Remember that, right?
Good times, yeah, good times.
I go watch it probably at least once every 6 months or so. But yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. What's been your experience, I guess, working with Elevate?
I mean, it's cool. It's a new promotion, so I mean, they're trying to work out their kinks and I guess get the ball rolling or whatever. But I haven't had a problem. I like the matchmaking. It's a little more like realistic. I guess other matchmakers are trying to set up people. Like I said, it's a little more political nowadays than it used to be. So like, there's plenty of fighters out there, right? Like, with the fact that like, oh, you can only give me this guy that's coming off of 5 wins or whatever. It's like, oh, well, like, I haven't really got a win yet, so it doesn't make too much sense for me. Like, but I get it. Like, there's different. I guess everybody has a different goal. Like I don't give a two shits about the UFC. Like I'm just trying to make my money and get out, right? And if I can get a pro title before I retire, great, right? Like, but a lot of the young guys, if I was 18, yeah, hell yeah, I want to get in the UFC, right? But I'm not, right? So like, there's not a lot of old guys in the game either. So I'm in a kind of unique point. Like I don't have to fight, I just want to fight. Going back to that, like, but also too, you gotta be realistic with yourself. Like I've been offered some studs. I'm like, yo, like, all right, we tried that, and it didn't turn out too well, right? So maybe like look at other matches, right? Like you could say yes to every match, right? That's cool. There's guys like that, but some matches, okay, styles make matches, right? So like some matches just aren't good, right? And you got to know that on a professional standpoint. My ego tells me I can fight anybody and everybody. Yeah, absolutely. Fuck that guy. You'll fight him, right? But realistically, like, damn, he might mop the floor with me. Like, you got to be realistic with your skill set at that time. And I think that's what your coach is supposed to be there for. When I was younger, I remember Angel, I didn't really think like that. I was like, hell no, I'm going to fight whoever. Like, I'm good. And Angel would be like, nah, don't do it. I'll do it anyway. I would do it anyway, you know? And I think that's part of the reason why he's like, hey, man, you got to get the fuck on, because, you know, I didn't listen. I was a knucklehead. Like, so that's just part of maturing and growing up. So I kind of, like I said, I pledged my allegiance to Drew, and now I run everything by him. Like, hey, if you don't like it, all right, just so be it. You know, like, I don't even ask him why or what. Like, he's just, nah, it's not a good one right now. Cool. Let's go. Next one. And if they can't fight, I mean, there's plenty of fights. We can travel or whatever, but we'd rather fight here. It's just easier. Like I said, I'm not in my 20s no more, so traveling to Vegas was cool. It was a good life experience, but like, I don't know if I could do that every, you know, maybe a couple times a year, but not like before. You know, you're fighting every 2 months, every 3 months.
What kind of advice and I guess like wisdom you going through your career and where you're at right now do you give to your young guys coming up? You know, whenever they like, hey, coach, this is a good fight, you kind of give them that that same thought process that you're going through with Drew?
Yeah, I mean, I try to. I mean, but I tell them, like, oh, look, I'm not your daddy. Like, you can take what I tell you and go in one or out there. And that's usually what happens. But, you know, sometimes you got to learn how to let them figure it out, because as a coach, it is stressful. I'm like, man, these knuckleheads, like, I get it. I understand now. Like, and I'm not that much older than them. I'm like, they're in their 20s. I'm in my 30s. So I'm just like, look, man, you're going to make your own decision at the end of the day. And then what the promoters will do is they'll reach out to the coach. And then the coach is like, no, you know, I don't like it. And then they'll be like, all right, cool, I'll just go straight to the fighter. Because they know the fighter's the knucklehead, right? So, like, and that's, you know, I did it. Everybody does it, you know. So I kind of let it play out. My guys listen pretty well for the most part. They know. So it's not too bad. But I've had a few knuckleheads like, hey, man, they show up to the gym. I got to fight next week. Like, what? No, that's not how it works. Like, you get you a coach, and whenever your coach says, hey, you're good to fight, you've been coming in consistently. You can't just come in and spar once a week. That's not training. And you're going to get hurt. Like, there's some scary amateurs out there now. I've seen some guys, I'm like, damn, that dude give a lot of pros problems. Like, it's crazy. Like, the level's a lot closer than it used to be. Before, there was, like, a bigger gap. Now, it's like, damn, you got some guys that are pretty game in the amateurs, too.
Yeah, young, super young.
Right. Talent. Guys that are now growing up doing MMA. You're like, now as kids, he was a little dweeb one day, and then now he's like fighting for a title and like got his man muscles and shit, and he's like 6 foot tall. It's crazy. It's like, yeah, it's the next generation.
Yeah, and yeah, as MMA has just boomed in popularity. Even whenever we had first talked to you before, like, I wasn't introduced to MMA yet. I wasn't really a fan of it, and there's two fighters, you being, I think, the first MMA fighter that I ever had an interview with. And then there was another, Jose Solis, who trained at Texas Striking and War.
Solis. I remember him, yeah.
Yeah, and that we actually went to our first MMA fight, and this would have been in 2018. It was with Fury, and Jose Solis was fighting, and you fought that same card as well. And so that was my first introduction to watching MMA in a cage was there, and it was cage side. And I met Diego, who works with Fury in their production.
Okay.
And then he's a Texas City police officer as well. So I think the first MMA fighter I ever talked to in media, because we do and did a lot of other stuff outside of combat sports, was you. And the second one was also Jose Solis. And then that first fight, y'all both fought on that card. And from that moment on, 2018, it was like, okay, this is different. The energy here is different. This is a different feel. And it's kind of grown into, now we do a ton with combat sports. So I have you to thank, you know,
that's cool, man.
for that as well. So
that's cool.
Yeah. You just never know. Like, I think I was closed-minded about it because I was like, it's not, I don't like that stuff. That's not for me. Yeah. And then, but after seeing that, and I think it's the energy. I mean, what is it that hooked it for you, right?
But man, honestly, what hooked, okay, so I started under Saul Solis, right? And I remember he made, my mom signed the paper for my consent because I was 17. And he said I wouldn't have contact for the first year. Straight lied. I remember he put me on the tire. He had me like rock back and forth. He called me over. He told me to throw a 1-2, and then he smacked me with a mitt. And that was the hardest I ever been hit. I had never been rocked. I had never been like nothing like that. Everything went white like in the video game. The beeping in my ears or oh man, it was crazy. And I was hooked. I was like, yo, that was awesome. Yo, like, all right, I kept my hands up, put my hands up real high after that. And then he got my hands good. He threw me in a kickboxing match. And I remember that was a life experience for me. I will never forget. And that hooked me. It just hooked me. I was just addicted to it after that. Yeah. All the other sports didn't exist to me. I was like, that was bullshit. Like, this is it. And I knew right then and there, like, that's what I'm going to do. Like, in my gut. I knew as a kid, I'm going to be a professional athlete. I didn't know what, because I was always small, right? Like, I'm not going to be no football player, right? Soccer, I blew out my ankle or whatever. Like, so I didn't know what. But whenever I found that, we were actually on a family vacation, man. And I remember seeing my first UFC fight. It was Tito and Chuck. You know, Tito was always getting his ass whooped by Chuck or whatever, right? Like, but when we came back, Tito's trainer was in town. Like, it was just like, again, it played into my lap. I remember the magazine was open because I mentioned it to my mom, and she was like, "Oh, hey, didn't you mention this? His trainer's here in town." I was like, "No way!" And we went out there, and then that was all she wrote.
Yeah.
Ever since, it was like an addiction.
Yeah.
I couldn't stop. I would get hurt, whatever, but I would just come back. And when you're 18, you sleep it off.
Right. It's different.
You sleep it off. Right? Like, it was cool, man. And then I always did it as I worked. I went, worked, got regular jobs. And then eventually I became a trainer. And it kind of just evolved itself into where it's at now.
You mentioned, your mom, your parents signing the waiver to allow you to train and even be in like kickboxing fights and fights and that. I've met your mom, and she's, I mean, at least from the outside looking, like social media stuff, she's like your number one supporter. What's that support like from your family?
She's, I know in the beginning they didn't like it, right? But like they've accepted it. Like, oh, that's what he does, like, and she always pushed me to network, to brand, to, because I didn't want to go out and talk to people, all right? But she's like, you can't do that and not talk to people. You have to build your brand. You have to build connections, really in anything. That's so she definitely like pushed me to do all that. She was very supportive. She still is to this day. She's like always there, always. Yeah. So yeah, it's very, very necessary. I think it was a bit crucial, like, part in the puzzle to make it so successful to where I am now. I don't think if I had that, it probably wouldn't have gone. I'd probably just be like every other fighter, right? Like, I think that's what separates me from a lot of other guys. I did the branding, I did the time, and I'm still around. It's not who's best, it's who's left. The guys, like, we fall off like flies after you hit a certain age and start like getting injuries.
Yeah.
Right. You get your first big injury.
Right.
You're out potentially for a year to 4 years. Or longer, forever, if you don't take care of it right. And most people, they get hurt and then they're like, all right, I'm gonna go get a job, and then you just kind of like let it go. But I was like, nah, I can't do it.
I was talking to Michael Aswell and Professor Saul, as well, or
Aswell blew out my knee.
Really?
Aswell's the one who blew out my knee. Yeah, I know who he is.
Yeah. So he was saying that his coach Saul would always say, like, life will happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
And sometimes it's not even the injury. It's like, man, now I got a baby on the way. I got to go get this different job. I got arrested for this, or I got accused of that. Like, driving, speeding. It's all kinds of things that can happen.
The
He was
life
like,
chaos. You got to get it under control.
right.
So you can get into the gym.
Mm-hmm.
I tell all my guys that you have to control the outside chaos to make it to the gym.
Right.
If you don't have a car, how you gonna make it to the gym?
Yeah.
You crash your car because you were drinking or whatever. Like, I don't know. It just, you bought a clunker. I don't know. Like, so many different situations. I get it, but like, man, ride a bike. I don't know.
Yeah.
What, you know, like, there's ways you have to like make it happen, because there's so many excuses to not do it.
Yeah. And I have kids as well, and I always tell them, like, even in math, I'm like, pay attention. Take notes. Like, it sounds funny because I remember trying to hear this advice from my parents or from people that it's like, you can literally be anything that you want if you try. And it's like, okay, yeah. It's like, oh, yeah, if I take notes and try, like, guess what? You're going to make good grades. And it's so funny, but if you put, it's the same thing with fighting, but like trying to give that advice to a younger person, not, you know, in fighting, in school, in anything. But I remember being young too and being like, yeah, I'm going to go hang out with my friends or do what I want to do instead of studying from math or right. Man,
they don't want to hear it.
Right. Can you remind everybody, November 10th, what's happening? How can they get tickets and why should they watch?
November 10th, we are coming out to Elevate. What is it? Number 2, number 3?
So it's Fight Night 5, but it's their second pro show, which the first pro show, which you were on, was one of the biggest Elevates. It's exciting to see how they keep growing. So it's Fight Night 5.
Fight Night 5. Okay. So Elevate, Fight Night 5, Sunday evening, right? We have a stack card, guys. I mean, the main event's going to be really good. The co-main's going to be dope too. And then you tune into my fight, and I'm going to always keep it entertaining. All right. So whether it's striking, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, whatever, I'm kind of dangerous everywhere. So it's going to play out well. I think it's my time.
Is there anything else you'd like to share?
Not that I can think of.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for making time today. I appreciate you.
Thanks for having me, man.
This is Gardy with Clear Life Media. Y'all make sure you can watch the fights on Clear Life Media or get your tickets from Dom, get your tickets from anybody that's on the card, also on Elevate's website. Y'all be blessed.